Here we go. Recording resume. All right there, Bob. So hello, my friend.
Hello,
Uh,
good afternoon. It's been a little while.
it's been a minute. Lots has happened in the last couple of months, so but good to reconnect.
All good, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm assuming you're doing well and
Thank
like
goodness, yes.
yeah.
Everyone is well at my end.
Good, good, good. Well, so we're gonna just dive right into everything. If y'all don't know who Bob is, there's videos about Bob and Bob the Pharmacist, or as Mary likes to call you, Bob the Farmer. And we enjoy working together so much so because in this conversation, especially, all of them especially, but this one's been super fun because we're going to talk about exercise and medication. And there's just been some aha moments that have come to light um, in the last couple of days as Bob and I have been talking regarding exercise and medication. So without just taking too long to dive into the subject, um, let's talk about medication, exercise, and the value of one or the other or both. So I'm going to just turn it over to you for that answer.
Okay, great. And there is great value in both. You know,
Mhm.
time and time again, you and I have spoken of how important it is for exercise with Parkinson's. I think you would be very hard pressed to find any neurologist or movement disorder specialist that would frown upon their patients exercising. We have learned time and time again that exercise has more value in some areas than even the medication themselves. And patients need to understand that those two together are complementary. They really complement. They're synergistic. They work more powerfully together than they do individually.
Yeah.
And you can't have one without the other. The medication allows you to be able to perform the exercise, and the exercise enhances the value of the medication. We have data that shows that the exercise itself improves dopamine receptor functions. It improves blood flow, so we're delivering more dopamine to certain areas. It
Mm,
helps with cognition. And these are all things that are imperative for a Parkinson's patient, aside from their medication as well.
right, right. Um, we were at a function recently with an amazing neurologist, and it was a fun function. And it's funny because there was a movement disorder specialist, there was a neurologist, and then there was a myself teaching exercise and a nutritionist there, and it was kind of funny. I came in sort of at the end, and the of them all said the three things: exercise, exercise, exercise. So they basically said everything I was going to say, and then we got to exercise, so it was pretty fun. But the neurologist, this wonderful gentleman, actually shared a case study, and they had three control groups of several people who went through, they followed for 6 months, and one of them, all of them had Parkinson's, and one group did nothing. They just took their medication and lived
Right.
life normally, didn't do any increased exercise. One of them added one or two things to their week, exercise wise, maybe a little walk here and there, just a little bit more movement. And then the third group daily really pushed themselves to an 80% max heart rate for at least 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
And be mindful, all of them were on medication as well. This was a study overseen by some doctors. And what resulted was the first group, there was increase in their symptoms, their motor symptoms, regarding the Parkinson's affected symptoms. The second group, some of them had a slowness of their Parkinson's symptoms. And then the third group, which pushed themselves on a regular basis to a 80% max heart rate, they actually seen a significant amount of them reverse their symptoms, and then the rest stopped their symptoms, their motor symptoms.
Mm.
And the entire room was like, aha, this is why one person said if exercise can be put into a pill, it would be the number one prescribed medication on the
Oh, without
planet.
a doubt.
But it had such a profound effect on that group. So it gets me excited. Now, when you and I talked about this, now this is aerobic exercise, this is interval training, this is getting your heart rate up. This isn't just going for a stroll. This isn't playing a golf game,
Right.
and getting out of your cart once in a while. This is intentional exercise. So we get a lot of people in our life who are active, but it's not intentionally that pushing yourself to that 80% max heart rate
Yes.
for a period of time on a daily basis. So that's different than, somewhat people see as active, right?
Yes.
Um, and so before we get into, and I do want you to explain something really profoundly important, but um, the idea of getting to your max heart rate, right? And it's sometimes I get clients who are like, okay, at my age, how many beats per minute? What should I be looking for? And it gets that we make it more complicated than it has to be, right? Because no two people, 124 beats per minute isn't the same for me and for you. It
Right.
be different per person. So, probably the simplest way when we want to get to that max push, that 80% push, is to think of a scale of 1 to 10. We do that in so many things in life, right? One
Hmm.
would be a stroll through the park while you're checking out the birds and you're just enjoying life. Nothing's changing, but you're having a good time and you're moving slightly. Um, 10 would be, I say, if you're being chased by a lion, right? And you can go
Yes.
maybe, you can go maybe a few blocks before you're going to collapse, but you're like pushing to save your life, right? So that one is that stroll through the park. 10 is running to save your life. Now, again, think about what eight would look like. Eight would look like you're not running for a lion, but you're running to run a race. You're doing that 800-meter dash, or that's something to get first place. That would be an
Hmm.
eight in that maximum heart rate. So what that looks like for everybody is different. So it's just kind of being real honest about that push for yourself. But what happens now, Bob, when someone's in a class with me, right? And we do boxing a lot to get ourselves up there. Boxing gets your heart rate up like there's no tomorrow, and you feel like you can turn around and kick that lion's butt because it builds confidence, right?
Absolutely.
Um, but you and I have talked about this. So a lot of times when people are in a high intensity workout, they're feeling good. What effect does that increased effort have with their medication that they're using?
Okay, so a good question. So a couple of points. First and foremost is, and the effect, the short answer is it has a dramatic effect on medication in a positive way.
Okay.
Um, but here again, we were talking about heart rates. Some patients need to consider also the role the medication may play with their heart rate, and can be very difficult. Certain classes of medication, for instance, beta blockers, are given to patients specifically to keep their heart rate down. So those types of patients would have difficulty in achieving some of those goals, and that's where the trainer is going to have to work with them and find out where they need to go with that. But overall, once we get them to the point where they are exercising, whether it's at an 8 or a 10, I like to tell patients all the time when they ask me stuff like that, although it's not my forte, but I tell them, look, if you're working out, let's say in the neighborhood and you're going for a walk, if you're able to have a conversation while you're walking, it's not an aggressive type of workout at all. You shouldn't be able to carry on a conversation while you're walking. You need to really get your heart rate up, your respiration up. But when you do that, you set off a cascade of chemical procedures, call it, that take place on a cellular level that improves many things: blood pressure, blood sugar. But as far as Parkinson's is concerned, that repetitive exercise also helps as far as resensitizing or improving the functionality of our dopamine receptors. And that's a great thing because the better they work, the more dopamine they can grab and make that more functional for you because you've already have a depletion to begin with. So the better that they work, the better you're going to feel. And also there's other factors too. We have endorphins that get
Right.
secreted during that. So that improves mood and improves anxiety. There's social aspects that go along with that too. So
I think there's like
all of that plays a huge role.
yeah, there's like a term called, and it's runner's high, right? Like right after you've done
Yes.
something really fantastic, you get this high, and that's where I'm assuming is the dopamine, increase and the
Sure.
serotonin increase and all that fun stuff that see people who think exercise not fun. You just Don't
Yeah.
let themselves see the bigger.
And,
Yeah.
and I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, unless you're really totally into that, I mean, I do it because I just know I have to do it. And I think a lot of people are at that point, but it's even more important for
Mhm.
Parkinson because it affords two things that drugs can't do.
Mhm.
Number one, it serves as disease modifying,
Mhm.
meaning that I don't have a single drug that can modify Parkinson's at all. We treat it symptomatically with everything. But exercise, time and time again, has shown that it can actually slow the progression. Now,
Mhm.
that has a lot of meaning for everyone, and it's a different meaning. At what degree it slows it down, we don't really know. But I would take it at any level if I can slow the progression down because I don't know what my future holds with Parkinson's. No one does. And it is a progressive disease. So if I can slow that progression down, count me in. The other thing that it does, number two, is that it's neuroprotective. Here
Right.
again, we do not have a drug that can protect the existing dopamine producing neurons and preserve them. There was a time when there was a drug called Rasagiline or Azalex. They thought when that came on the market that was going to improve it, be neuroprotective. I'm not so sure that really played out. So as it stands right now, exercise gives you the neuroprotective capability and it improves its disease modifying by slowing the progression down. And there is no drug yet, anyway, that can do that. And that's why that coupling of exercise and medicine is just so critical.
Right. Right. One thing, when I dug into this earlier, just to just to kind of have some fun with the video, and then again we talked about how this is a way bigger conversation than this short video, but the the increase of ability to learn and memory cognition or memory function
Yeah,
with exercise. And so when it comes to Parkinson's, memory and cognitive, all those issues, especially memory, that's just something that we don't ever want to get to the cognitive part. We're expecting motor symptoms with Parkinson's, and motor symptoms seem to be something that we do a lot of judging on our progression on. But
yes.
I think it's you've said that the on-scene things, your memory, your cognition, what's happening in that aspect, and exercise plays a big part
It
in
absolutely does.
working. Hmm.
Absolutely does. And I can tell you this, a specific exercise, aerobic exercise, has here again proven to be one of the best things you can do for improvement of cognition, which is memory and thinking.
Hmm.
And it's one of the best things you can do to help ward off dementia. And we have study and studies and studies time and time again, solidifying that fact. And again, from a pharmaceutical perspective, we don't have anything that can do that, but in a pill form, not yet anyway. So again, exercise has proven to be extremely beneficial for cognition. And it's actually beneficial for four reasons that I always try to put out there. First and foremost is just general muscular strength. Maintaining good muscle strength is important because it helps with their falls. If we
Right.
can keep ourselves in decent shape, maybe we can grab onto that couch, the armchair or something, and prevent ourselves. But even more importantly, what happens if you actually do make it to the floor? How are you going to get up? If you have
Right.
no upper body strength, I've had stories, people tell me their care partner went out to the bank or grocery store and they had a fall. Fortunately, they didn't get too hurt, but they had to lay there until they got home. It could be an hour or two. They don't have the physical strength to help themselves. So muscle strength is important. Flexibility is another major improvement that you can see with Parkinson because they're always stiff. They have this cogwheel rigidity. So it improves flexibility and it also improves balance. We see that all the time. They're always off balance because their posture is not straight. It's always off 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees. And that leads to a fall. And the fourth and final thing, as I mentioned, cognitive acuity. It improves cognition, memory, and thinking. Parkinson's patients have a huge problem with that. They have a problem with retrieval of that. They're always got that. It's right on the tip of their tongue, right there. They just can't find the right word for it. It's very common with Parkinson. And you can improve that simply with exercise, which is a great thing.
Now, I'm the sun just came out of the clouds.
I see that. Yeah.
Such a beautiful day. I'm like, I'm gonna go outside and enjoy this beautiful Florida weather. And then all of a sudden, it was nice and shady. And then now, like just when I turned the the sun comes out. So so please, I hope it's not too distracting. Um, now, one thing that I would love for you to cover, Bob, and this is I think just so relevant. You said to me the other day in our conversation that when someone's with Parkinson's, they've just taken their carbidopa levodopa, or they're feeling good. So it's like an hour after they take their medication, or a little bit more, and they're in their upstate, they're on state, and they come see me. We do an intense hour of boxing and movement, and we have a blast. And then they walk away, and somehow there's chemistry that's happening, obviously in the body. There's with that medication. And so I'm going to let you run with that because I don't want to use the wrong words, but something to be aware of that exercise does for you while with your medication at that very moment. So jump with it.
Yeah. So, every now and then I'll have a conversation with one of the patients at the support groups or something, and they'll say that they went and they tried the exercise. Exercise wasn't for them because every time I go to exercise, I feel worse. I walk out of my rock steady boxing or my power Parkinson's or whatever class they want to do, and they're feeling worse. They start to turn off. Their slowness, stiffness, tremor, whatever their baseline is, begins to return. And so they think that it's the exercise that's really causing this in a negative way. And to a certain extent, it is the exercise, but not in the way you think it is. What's happening is on the days that you're not exercising, your usual dose of your levodopa is working just fine. But on those days when you're exercising, you're going to burn through that dopamine much faster because this is a movement disorder, and you're supplementing it with dopamine, which makes you move. So now on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, when you go to those classes, you're burning through, you're using muscle groups that you don't normally have on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So now those days, you're really coming up short on your levodopa, carbidopa. And so as a result, you're starting to go downhill. You're wearing off. However, that's not a deal breaker. That's not a reason to walk away from exercise because it's a simple fix. If you look at it, and the analogy I give them is, look at gas for your car. If you pull your car into the gas station, I put the pump in, I fill it up, that car will go and go and go until the gas is run out. And there's no cure for it other than replacing the gas. You can't jump start it or push it or anything else.
Okay.
You have to put gas in it. And it's the same way. If you look at your levodopa as fuel for you, if I fill your tank up with dopamine, you're going to go. But if you pull out of the gas station at 85 miles an hour, you're going to burn through that dopamine, that gasoline, faster than if you pulled out doing 45. And it's the same concept with Parkinson's. If on a sedentary day, you only need the 45, fine. But on the other days that you're burning through it at 85 miles an hour, you're going to use up more. So here's the fix for that. And it's very simple. A very easy conversation with your neurologist or movement disorder specialist. They hear this all the time. They're experts at this. This is a very common issue. And they in their little bag of tricks, they have ways that you can improve this. Some patients, they'll suggest maybe a rescue medication to take just to hold them over to their next normal dose. Or some patients will be told to take an extra half a tablet of their levodopa, carbidopa. Everyone's going to be different. And I don't just do it on your own. You need to go obviously through your physician with that. But it's an easy fix. And then once they show you how to do that, then you're back in business as far as having your exercise. So you're taking your medication normally before you go so that you make sure you're on. And then if you find yourself wearing off, you have an alternative to how to prevent that from happening. And it's said, I tell a story of a woman who went through that, and she wore off at 11 o'clock, and her next dose wasn't until 12. And after the class, she just sat in her car and waited a whole hour to take her levodopa. And by then, she was already 1 hour into her off state. So when she did take her next dose, it takes that much longer to bring her all the way back up just to baseline again. So she wasted 2-3 hours of her day with that. And that's not necessary. In Parkinson's, you have to dose the patient, not the clock. The clock doesn't have Parkinson's. The patient does. So very often, if you speak to your neurologist, he'll show you or teach you ways that you can avert that happening. Because we want the exercise is always the focus. Don't let that kind of thing prevent you from going back to exercising again.
Yeah, I thought that was so good. And that phrase, it's you're what's said again, what the patient,
We
not the
dose
clock.
the patient, not the clock.
We
The
dose
clock
the
doesn't have Parkinson's.
Yeah, so good, so good. Because that's I've gotten to where some of my clients they'll say, "Boy, I was just exhausted and I went home and just slept for 2 hours." Well, reality is probably they just needed to, talk to their neurologist, get some sort of a plan of attack on the days that they
Yes.
exercise. So it doesn't
Yeah.
have to like just knock them out so long after the exercise.
Yeah, as opposed to saying to yourself, you know what, it's the exercise. I can't do this anymore because there's no hope anymore. I'm just getting myself. They think they're causing their Parkinson's to get worse because now they're not even lasting the 4 hours in between each dose. So
Right.
right away, and I can understand that,
Mhm.
to a layperson that would make sense to them. But that's not the case at all. The Parkinson's isn't getting worse. You're doing just fine. It's just that you burnt through that last dose a little faster than you normally would, and we just need to make an adjustment either prior to or immediately after the workout, and life is good again.
Yeah. What great advice. What a profound, simple, but
Yeah.
super incredible like advice and just reality. There's a few things along the way that in our relationship and as we've been able to work with our community here that have just made such a big difference in people's lives. Just how
Oh
they're
yeah.
eating with their medication, how to talk to their doctor as far as what they're feeling, and then just knowing that like there is a way to get through your to have the benefits of exercise, to have the benefits of your medication, and not to have that crash. And how sad for the lady that to sit in her car for 2 hours, and because you can have that's just incredible 2 hours of life you can live,
That's
and
right.
um
That's
and
right.
to not have to miss a thing. Just but if you don't know, you don't know, and that's where the beauty of this is.
Exactly. And then they're fearful. They get afraid and they say, "Oh, everybody's telling me how great exercise is." Well, I can tell you, exercise is miserable for me. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And that's not the case at all. And what I try to tell them, this again, this opens up an opportunity to have a conversation with your neurologist. I mean, you probably don't even need to make an appointment. This is something you could do on a telemed thing or just over the
Mhm.
phone because they hear it so often. They have it down to a science as far as
Right.
what they want to do. They hear this time and time again. It's a very common event. And believe me, the neurologist will do anything he has to do to make sure you keep exercising. He will come up, I promise you, with some kind of plan to keep you in the game because he realizes how important that really is.
I love that. I love that. Well, Bob, I think that is like our tip of the day. We're just going to leave it at that today. And there'll be more to come very soon. I'm excited to dive into the actual science of exercise in the brain. I know that you love to talk about the medication aspect of it, but as much as you're the drug guy, your knowledge goes way, way beyond just simply the medication. It goes into just really hitting
Sometimes.
the whole person, and I love that. And I know that's why the community loves you because it's just truly you care. Um, so do you have anything to add before we close off today?
Do I have anything to add? No, I don't think so, other than the fact that we'll leave it at exercise is medicine. So
They go
don't skip the dose.
don't oh, I love it. I love it. All right, friend. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest
Yes.
of your Sunday, and I hope you go outside. It truly is
I'm
a
headed out there now.
perfect. I'll see you later.
All right, Tammy, take care. Bye bye.
Bye.